Well, g'day everybody, welcome back to another one, and by everybody I mean the handful of people that are watching this, but if you are watching this, thank you very much. This video is purely about the NRL round 15, the last full round before the next big bye round, but the bye round before State of Origin 2. Quite a lot happening in this one, as you could appreciate. Certainly a few players playing for or trying to finalise those last few State of Origin positions, but I'm sure before this round most of that was sorted. Anyway, so first game Thursday night, Sharks versus Dolphins. Sharks losing this one 28-30. I had the Sharks 13 plus in this one. I just felt that the Sharks will be pretty pumped up with Nico Hines back. Anyway, so Sharks' last game was the win against the Broncos, which was a pretty good effort, and the Dolphins' last game was a 25-26 loss to the Raiders before the bye. So I just thought Sharks would be in a better position being at home and with Hines back. So no late changes for the Sharks, no late changes for the Dolphins. The Dolphins had an almost perfect start, really. They scored the first 4 tries in 25 minutes, getting a lead of 22-0. Royce Hunt then made an impact when he came on. He scored around the 30th minute mark, and Nakore scored before halftime. So the scores at halftime was 12-22, and certainly that first 25 minutes or first 4 tries was a key moment in the game. Sharks scored twice after halftime to actually take the lead, 24-22. The Dolphins scored a converted try and penalty and looked like that was the game. But just like the Sharks did earlier in the first half, they came back and scored a great try in the corner to Katoa, running the ball on the last play with a couple of minutes left. So it was really their last shot at it. But Hines and the rest of the team sort of took a punt, tried their luck. Hines had the kick to level the scores, but he missed, really kind of shanked that one out quite wide of the post there. But the Sharks start really let them down. The reality is they did come back into it, but still struggling with periods within games where teams can sort of score quite a few points in quite short bursts. Something they need to tidy up. Certainly play an 80-minute game, for example. Super difficult to pick results at the moment, but Sharks should have aimed to make a statement in this one, really, with Hines back at home. But this Dolphin team is an improvement from last year again, and tough to beat. I think they're earning, I don't know if they're top 4 at the moment, we'll look at the table shortly, but certainly they can beat top 4 sides. Both teams have been up and down of late. They'll be looking for more consistency, and the Sharks may be able to do that with Hines missing out on Origin now. But the Dolphins may have to wait until Origin is over before they find some consistency. So anyway, and then Friday night we had Raiders versus Cowboys. Raiders at home, losing this one 16-34. I had the Raiders 1-12. I thought they'd do pretty well at home. But anyway, the Raiders were coming off a close win against the Dolphins before the bye, and the Cowboys coming off a good win against the Roosters before getting pumped by the Warriors at home, which was quite a game. Origin stars were back, and there were no changes to either side other than Jordan McLean dropping out for his calf injury for the Cowboys. So this really was all one-way traffic. North Queensland handling the much different conditions for them well, and they scored 4 unanswered tries in the first half to lead 22-0. The Raiders didn't get across the line until the 54th minute, and was well too late by that point. They scored 3 tries in the second half, but it took a long time before the Raiders' attack sort of came out, and the young Haas were struggling to make an impact. But the Cowboys were able to sort of shut them down and keep them pretty quiet for most of that game. But all came together for the Cowboys, really, and they bounced back from a poor performance, showing that they can or do have that class that we know they have, certainly in their personnel. But the Raiders didn't perform to their capability. I think it's fair to say they'll be pretty disappointed with that performance. I think defence was their issue, and certainly in that first half. But that Cowboys team was pretty hot on attack. And then the second Friday night game, Rabbitohs versus the Broncos. I did tip this one, actually. Didn't tip many this week, certainly in terms of margins. But yeah, the score, 22-12 to the Rabbitohs. I had the Rabbitohs 1-12. Finally got one. But this was an upset of sorts. I think the Broncos were favourites to win this one. Rabbitohs are playing like a completely different team at the moment. Third win in a row and building nicely. They have their confidence back, and Cameron Murray will help too, of course. Broncos have lost 2 in a row, but they lack a lot in attack without Reece Walsh and Adam Reynolds there. And Origin time is always challenging for the Broncos, as we can all appreciate. A lot of teams unavailable busy workloads through this period. A reasonably comfortable win for the Rabbitohs. The halftime score is 18-0, for example. 2 sin bins to the Rabbitohs and 1 to the Broncos. Jordan Ricky hit Cam Murray off the ball and high, and an absolute shocker, really, if you ask me. And Mitchell came in to try and defend his mate, Cameron Murray, but they both went to the bin. In terms of Mitchell, and of course Ricky was going to go to the bin for his shot. All Broncos points coming after the 67th minute. So yeah, like I said, which is only 2 tries, but like I said, the Rabbitohs sort of dominated this one. And then on Saturday, the first game was West Tigers versus Titans. Didn't pick this one either. West Tigers winning 18-10 for their second or third win of the season. The Titans, I had the Titans 1-12 scores. 18-10 Tigers. Last game was the thumping they got from the Dragons. And the Titans' last game was a similar result against the Rabbitohs. So both teams coming off pretty decent losses. Tigers disrupted preparation with both Alex Lobb and Alex Twell unable to play due to head knocks at training. And Titans lost David Fafita to an ankle injury, but he should only be out for one game. He's a key man, certainly for them, and he's not playing Origin, so he's a key man in fantasy terms as well. But yeah, I should have changed my tip actually at that point when David Fafita was out. I did have a feeling, but anyway, you can't really tip the Tigers, can you? Yeah, it's a waste of a tip. But anyway, they managed to do this one. But they haven't given any reasons to tip them, and with a number of injuries like Lachlan Galvin and Jaden Sullivan, both out, who have been the halves pairing for the last few weeks, you'd thought, and a couple of head knock laid outs, you thought there was just too much disruption. But boy, they showed some resolve and got themselves up for this one, which is bloody good effort. Titans led at half-time, actually, so the score was 6-10, but the Tigers kept the Titans scoreless in the second half, which was a complete turnaround from the second half last week. And the Tigers were able to score twice. One was just before full-time to win the game. So yes, don't forget that the Tigers led on 44 points against the Dragons in that second half last week. Stefano Utoikamanu led the charge for the Tigers, really. Keanu Kinney was really good for the Titans. He is a class young player. Boy, are there some good young fullbacks floating around. I will talk about a couple of them before the video's finished. But yeah, Keanu Kinney he ran 318 run meters. But yeah, interesting to see what they do when AJ Brimson and I guess Tanner Boyd return. I don't know if Tanner Boyd's available, and they haven't picked him yet. Jaden Campbell playing 5'8". I felt that AJ Brimson was better at fullback when he came back. Keanu Kinney, I think I saw the team's name today, and he's on the wing, so we may see a bit more of that. But anyway, we'll talk about the upcoming games in another video this week. The second game on Saturday was the Warriors versus Storm. 24-38, the Warriors losing. I had the Warriors 1-12. The bookmakers had them slightly ahead in the end, but it was pretty even most of the week. But yeah, I mean, what do you say about this one, other than yuck, from a Warriors point of view? Yeah, look, the Warriors, they had turned the season around with 3 impressive wins against the odds, finally getting some respect for the bookmakers in this one against the top team in the competition. And then really, I guess I would argue they failed quite poorly. They'll be disappointed with their performance. Some harsh, refereeing calls that, of course, didn't go their way and disrupted flow and momentum. And you can't afford to, those things, if that happens to you, You can't afford to let that bother you, and I think the Warriors didn't manage that very well, and the Storm are an absolute class side. I'll read through my notes, but I've kind of covered off the main points already. Absolutely great start to the game for the Warriors against a sellout crowd. They took a lead of 14-0, but yeah, look, the rain came in, a few calls started going against them, and the Storm just took complete control of the game. The Storm scoring 38 points from the 20th minute in bad conditions. Very impressive scoring off kicks, line breaks, or otherwise. It didn't matter. The halftime score was 14-20, so 20 unanswered points for the Storm. The Warriors scoring straight after halftime to make the score 18-20, so right in the game, but then the wheels completely fell off for the Wars. Both Warriors wingers going to the bin in the second half for 3 or 4 minutes, the Warriors were actually down to 11 players. The Warriors playing with 12 for almost 20 minutes in total, and the Storm scored twice in that time. I think Rocco Berry also was injured. Warriors left edge defence was poor, 2 tries and even more line breaks. I was literally just talking before kickoff that Adam Pompey had been just doing exceptionally well, and that we needed to keep our centres. And what do we do with RTS when he comes back? I feel like Shaun Johnson was going to go in. I'll talk about Shaun Johnson in a minute. But Pompey didn't have his best game at centre. Rocco Berry is injured, so I believe we'll look at the teams in another video, but Pompey will probably get another chance, and RTS will replace Rocco Berry, but we'll look at that. Pompey had an issue with a niggle too at the end of that game, but he has been named. DWZ or Wantini Zelezniak Sinbin should have been one, or probably even more than that. Absolute shocker, taking a player high off the ball, throwing an arm out. So, absolute shocker. He had to go to the bin. Disappointing game, really, or performance from the Warriors. Their discipline letting them down, and that worst losing streak against an opponent in our NRL history, I believe it's the worst, will continue. Shaun Johnson not offering much in his return, to be fair. Maybe he needs a game or two, but if you looked at Chanel Harris-Tavita, or even Chancellor Cluxted playing 5/8 in one of those 3 wins, I think it was against the Panthers perhaps, you'd argue those guys just slotted straight in and made a difference. Shaun Johnson, I don't know, he's a shadow of himself from last year. He's got to find his confidence. I think he's getting a bit frustrated, so he's got to beat those mental battles, if you were to ask me. Martin still played really well. He popped up on both sides of the ruck, but Shaun Johnson maybe needs a couple more games. We have to persevere because he is a class player. Jerome Hughes was absolutely awesome though. He's the best half going around at the moment, I think. Certainly the most consistent. And then Pappenhausen is due back this week. I think he has been named today, so the Storm only get stronger, and Munster's coming back too. So anyway, just a very disappointing game. Eels versus Roosters was the final game on Saturday. Eels losing 18-28. Eels at home. Roosters, I had 1-12, which is what got that one right. Got that tip right. Eels have been much better since Moses and Gutherson returned. However, coming off a loss to the Bulldogs last week, that would we would have thought they would have fired them up. They sort of missed an opportunity against the Bulldogs. And the Roosters off the bye, and before that a close loss to the Cowboys. Eels lost Mike Acevo before kickoff. Dejan Arce came in at centre. Joey Lussick joined the bench for the Eels, and Jermaine Hopgood couldn't play. He's got a back niggle, and made sense that they rested him, certainly leading into Origin. He has been... I need to check the Origin teams, but yes, and which meant Ryan Madison came onto the bench for the Eels. Roosters lost Dom Young with a hamstring injury, and Michael Jennings then came in and had another start. He scored a good try early. Jared Warrior-Hargraves and Spencer Leniu swapped. Lenu coming off a really awesome performance in State of Origin. Kelma Tuolangi went to the bin in the first 4 minutes, which opened the door for the Roosters, who scored twice while he was off. Tuolangi did a tip tackle on Lindsay Collins, and luckily Lindsay Collins was fine. It could have gone pretty pear-shaped. I don't know how Kelma Tuolangi got into that position. I think he was pretty pumped up from a decent bit of contact. Jared Warrior-Hargraves had his turn in the bin. He does go to the bin on a regular basis, and the Eels took advantage of that situation to score before the break. Score was 16-6 to the Roosters at halftime. The Eels had bombed a try in the corner before Moses was able to score that try, so yeah, that could have been a bit closer. Eels had a great start to the second half. They scored 2 tries in the first 10 minutes, 1 try while Jared Warrior-Hargraves was still in the bin, so that was effectively 2 tries while he was in the bin. Eels coming back from 16-0 to 16-all, and then taking the lead with a penalty after Lindsay Collins complained at the ref to get a penalty pretty close to the posts. 30 minutes to go, and it was 16-all. But the Roosters were too strong. They scored twice down the left edge to seal it. The Roosters started well, finished well, didn't score any points through the middle of the game. But they did enough, of course, and Moses was a pretty mixed performance. I think his first game back was incredible, but yeah, obviously he's shown enough to the New South Wales selectors. The Roosters are a class side and now sit in 5th position. We'll look at the table in a minute, but yeah, Captain Tedesco is out of Origin now, and he can focus 100% on the Roosters for the remainder of the season for the first time in years, which is probably an opportunity he will appreciate. Eels battling in 15th place. The 4 wins out of the top 8, but yeah, look, and which sounds close, but I think with the way this table is looking, that top 8 is going to be super tough. One of the toughest tough 8s to sort of crack into for a while, and there's not a hell of a lot left in the season. Seagulls versus Dragons on Sunday. We had a score of 30-14. Seagulls winning that one. I had Seagulls 1-12, so I got that right. I just thought the Dragons would offer a little bit more, to be fair, but the Seagulls coming off the loss to the Panthers, and the Dragons coming off the big one against the Tigers, where they scored 44 second half points. As I mentioned before, Jake Simpkins started at hooker for his first game after moving across from the Tigers. His first game for the Seagulls. The Seagulls, there was not too many changes in either team other than that, but Seagulls winning comfortably in the end, and this win could actually be one of the best this season, considering some of the injuries, which I'll cover off at the end. Some awesome fullbacks coming through, as I mentioned before. Lehi Hopewade scoring a good try in the first 5 minutes. I mean, it's so good to know that the game is still really strong. The development is still happening really well. Little scored a gift of a try off a short dropout, ball falling into his arms, turn around, and he managed to dive over to score. A couple more tries each before half time, and the scores. Both teams scored before half time. Halftime score was 8-10, a couple more tries each after halftime, scores level with 30 minutes to go. But yeah, Dragons second half, nothing like their second half performance the week before against the Tigers. As I mentioned, really missing out on an opportunity that I think they'll regret that one. They did have an opportunity to win or take advantage of the Seagulls being in a situation that was pretty tough for them. Seagulls' injuries were: Garrick was injured in the 23rd minute, Paseka in the 7th. Corey Waddell was injured also, I believe, and there might have been an HAA as well. But DCE was awesome, had a hand in everything, and certainly completely dominated in the last 25 minutes, just taking the game by the scruff of the neck. I think he's obviously he played really well in State of Origin, but this was his best game for the Seagulls this year. The Seagulls have had quite an up and down season. They're 7 from 14, but I would say that they are one of the few teams. there's only probably a couple of teams in that middle part of the table that could actually challenge top four sides. But yeah, that will give them a lot of confidence managing to certainly that last 20 minutes. The last game of the round, thank you for sticking with me. If you still are, Knights versus Panthers. The Panthers winning this 26-18. I had the Panthers 13 plus, which is a little bit optimistic, to be fair. I think the Knights performed pretty well last week. But they're not, like I said, the Knights coming off a close loss to the Storm, who were right, the Knights were right in that game. Panthers a good win against the Sea Eagles. The Knights lost Kai Pearce-Paul to a toe injury leading up to the game, so Dylan Lucas starts. Man, the Knights are pretty spoilt for edge forwards this year. Mitch Kenny was unable to play, so Luke Summerton got his second game of the year. Liam Martin came in also, and Brad Schneider came in for Jack Cole, who had a quad injury. Young fullback Fletcher Sharp scored first. He scored in the first 4 minutes. Great try, beating a Jerome Luai tackle, and then stepping inside Dylan Edwards to score. Fletcher Sharp, he was picked over David Armstrong, who's been playing pretty well. So if you look at the Knights fullback setup at the moment, they are well spoilt there as well. But the Panthers found their rhythm after that, scoring 4 tries in 30 minutes of that first half to go to the break, leading 20-6. Luai has been one of the best halves going round, of course, at the moment since Cleary's injury. He has been pretty impressive, and certainly shutting up keeping the critics quiet, and probably earning, I think it's fair to say he's justified his position in the New South Wales side. The Knights had the better start to the second half, scoring 2 tries in the first 20 minutes to get back in the game. Score was 18-20. A lot of comebacks within games, shutouts. There wasn't too many sort of close finishes this round, so certainly the Knights got themselves back in the game, but the Knights couldn't break the Panthers' defence again after that. So they didn't score in the last 20 minutes. Moses Leota made a very impressive break to set up Dylan Edwards with 15 to go, and there were no changes to the score after that. That was it. So Panthers finishing 26, Knights 18. Panthers, well spoilt with capable halves. Schneider and Cole, both very good backups, aren't they? I mean, their system at the club is spot on, so any players coming through, but Schneider played really well. I don't know. I wouldn't know who to pick out of Schneider or Cole. They both offer something slightly different. Maybe Schneider's better at halfback and Cole 5'8". I don't know, but Schneider did a great skip pass to, I think it was To'o, to score in the corner in the first half. And the Panthers' defence is just too good. So let's have a quick look at the table. Another good round. I wouldn't say it was one of the best rounds so far. Maybe the Warriors loss put a dampener on it. I don't know. But let's look at the table. Storm currently sitting in outright first place. They've had a couple of byes though, to be fair. But Panthers second, Sharks third, Dolphins fourth to round out the top 4, and that top 4 has been pretty steady for most of the season. The Roosters are 1 win away from the top 4 behind the Dolphins, Bulldogs 6th, Raiders 7th, and Seagulls 8th. Pretty sound top 8. I think that the Bulldogs and Raiders may struggle to keep their positions. The Broncos will be threatening there. I'd love to see the Warriors there. I'm not sure if that'll happen. The Cowboys maybe. I feel like the Seagulls deserve to be top 8. But yes, so we'll have to see. But certainly the between the Bulldogs and the Dragons, they're the 2 most improved teams this year, because the Bulldogs are currently in the top 8. Maybe that's them. And they've got Kikau to come back too, so they'll only get stronger, you'd think. Matt Burden won't be playing Origin, so he's available for the Bulldogs this weekend, I believe. Raiders, though, without Jamal Fogarty, they have just been chipping away, haven't they? Been quite achievers there, and they will challenge anyone on their day as well, and I think they will get stronger as they go. Broncos 9th, Cowboys 10th, Dragons 11th, Warriors 12th. That's about right. Knights 13th, Rabbitohs 14th, Eels 15th, West Tigers 16th, and the Titans 17th. So I think the teams sort of further down the bottom that could make could upset some teams would be the Rabbitohs and the Eels. However, I think this season's just too far gone for them, unfortunately, even though they have some pretty good class and have been impacted by injuries more than most this year. The Knights, I don't know, they'll be there or thereabouts, but I don't think they'll be quite strong enough to break into the top 8. Ponga will be coming back, but that's not till a bit too late, probably. The Warriors have the potential. Dragons, I think, will struggle to make it the top 8, but certainly been well improved. And the Cowboys and Broncos, I don't know. They could upset. I think the Broncos have got to get back in there at some point. Reece Walsh is back this week. Adam Reynolds is key man. They're missing him, and it's always tough for them through Origin, as I mentioned earlier. Let's leave it there. I'll make another video leading up into the next round. But if you were watching, thank you very much. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.